It's been a while since the last videos of channel flash profiles that people who either full-blown A-logging, making original content, data-keeping, etc. for their wrongdoing and shit. I barely have any plan to make a video in them with controversial users that have lost cause and shit. Yet, something I actually decided to technically remake the videos about them and expose their wrongdoing this time. With the historical purposes that someone can learn from their mistakes that haven't changed for one bit to cause more troubles, a logging, red flag, and whatnot for these videos. I don't need to bring up the past, so I kind of have to do it once people immediately revert to their old ways to do any rash and shit. So, don't convince me otherwise, those who can learn any of it. Here is the thing, I have to ease up for a little bit, while collecting for someone's red flag of doing something stupid, committing atrocious acts, or any of it in a social platform. At least for the hate art and hate memes in users they hate, bash on internet trolls, praise but for hate art or memes other people, or something like that. But I'm sure I won't guarantee amicable about it for once someone has toxicity behavior and some shit. And so, I already decided a long time ago that someone deserves to get on videos for wrongdoing and a-logging shit. I have an ill talk about that none other than the infamous A-logger, Frankmaster61, in DeviantArt. Good grief. I had known everything about him for quite some time despite little interactions. Everything he makes terrible calling out with but for hate memes, a-logging, unoriginal and lazy content, Cartoonaboo-ish, etc. for his problematic acts. And even gaslighting just to desperately get other people to stay on his good side from finding out his toxicity and pulling the victim cards. Now get this. Frankmaster and I were little interactions and agreement that no such luck is overhated and some sort when I was around DeviantArt. And the guy lashed at me for pointing out that Ronniecoln has never become canon just because of the cutscene, if I recall. And then I found out he blocked me like a butt-foot kid, and apparently, it is mainly because I have bad mouthing on Ronniecoln that I find overhyped ships that people can't shut up about this shipping the way they care about. And Frankmaster doesn't take too kindly to express a negative opinion in his beloved ships and see them like they're supervillain situation. And even this kind, who's too horrible of judging people and blinded white knighting to the point they pulled the call-out card to endlessly harass them with zero effort expose their red flag or anything. Well, granted, I say something rude to one of his cronies, but let's say that he doesn't seem to realize that his buddy has a history of A-logging, defensive fanboys, troll feeding, gross content, etc., and constantly playing the victim and used depression to get out of his troubles. And he ended up bad as one of his headbangers, who draws fucked up artwork and some shit. So, I came to make a video about him once in retaliation back in June 2021, I guess, and then just about a few days or weeks later, he was not taken so well and rage quit by deactivating his DeviantArt account out of the blue and showing he hell of a butt for kids individual for his red flag shit and make depression just to gain his sympathy and claims he dealt with Ronniecoln drama, even though he did it to himself when someone disagrees with him and defensive data-keeping fanboys. Well, that wasn't long before he came back months later and continually caused more troubles and a-logging to spite someone. And yeah, my first video in him is pretty half-ass, much as I hated to admit. I'll just say, you know what, since I mentioned him during a rant on violent, unoriginal, grounded, and other dull videos, the toxic community, and all that bullshit, I decided to make the second rant on him and not just Frankmaster, pretty much his cronies who make terrible calling out, telling members, called themselves true loud house fans, etc. with solid evidence and expose their red flag. Probably. So there, someone has to make a second rant on him to ensure investing him for his wrongdoing back then and now with historical purpose. I'll never forget that one of his cronies posts Butford and violent death threats comment in me for messing with his friends and some shit that they promoted themselves blinded white knighting crap. Oh, he has other social platforms like Visit Femi and Devilmaster61 on YouTube and Reddit, respectively. And his Tumblr account as well. So, I doubt I have a lot to say about it, but I can see he is defensive data keeping and claims Ronniecoln is canon just because of the cutscene in one episode and lash at them for pointing out and appear he doesn't realize that and act like he is. No more introduction, and let's talk about Frankmaster acts in the DeviantArt site that he causes a lot of trouble. Like I said, his gallery is nothing but filled with an original and lazy content. The one Frankmaster has been using film memes, editing photos with no effort to make any unique or shitposting, repetitive, screen capture, and hell, stolen images. And even but for take memes out of his headbangers and internet trolls as well, which I'll talk about as a lot in any minute. I've seen he drew one of the pictures of Loud House cast and based on minions looking he published back then. But he doesn't do that anymore, the way he relies on film memes and stolen images just to gain more fame and watchers almost immediately. Us can't be bothered to come up with any creativity and making funny reactions to memes good looking. I can see people like him don't seem to realize or care about so-called DeviantArt and thinks film memes reactions are funny and too lazy to make actual ones without putting a caption or anything, us ending up stale as hell. Besides, this is what DeviantArt is talking about, the way filling gaps reaction gains more attention than fabric or any creativity. Frankmaster makes repetitive memes reactions like you've seen it a million times to try to be funny with the PNG project of Canva Flash PowerPoint fashion looking rather than memes. And none of the memes aren't really funny, for that matter, with the slapping pictures. It's just there and called his work memes. And one of the photo editing or some memes makes little to no sense. I mean, he put Lou's face from Brawl Star for the sake of humorous and memes about Ronniecoln facts about FedEx ships with orange and purple text. Frankmaster tried to be funny with shitposting looking, but I doubt his content makes little to no sense and implies to get other people straight that is something obvious.
That was funny!
Moreover, I see he uses opinions as facts and sees them like it's a holy god whatsoever. Looking back on one non-filling gaps reaction, most of the reasons are rather generic and gibberish that he ships them with copy and paste explanations or stuff like that. Like, he claims Starco or Healthy ships, assumedly, because they have a strong bond relationship, serve as true love and lovely-dovely from time to time during fucked up written seasons 3-4 with awful love triangle cliches. To be fair, Star and Marco have chemistry in the early seasons and start off pretty well, considering best friends and a hint of romantic feelings. It was very intriguing in the beginning, since the show's premiere, despite the writer making Starco jealously out of Yantir for some awful reason and making her look like she wanted to kill someone for stealing her precious Marco away. But as soon as the Progress series, everything falls apart with overbearing ships between Star and Marco, have amped up the melodrama and ultimately killing the show that is beyond repair with a horrible finale. Seriously, Star vs. the Force of Evil is never recovered from seasons 3-4, no thanks to Starco and the Buttford shippers who care about shipping, and the writer and everyone else has to make fans happy, as the long they get what they want. So, I find it hard to believe that Starco is a healthy ship with lovely-dovely and melodramatic written bullshit, since they come here for shipping and no effort to make a story plotline. It's unbearable. If anything, Starco is the true downfall of this show as a whole, so don't bother trying to convince me otherwise. Anyway, Frankmaster uses opinion as facts and treats Ronniecoln like it's special treatment and glorifies the shit of his precious ship and defensive stands individuals. And not just that, but also the infamous heavy middle and save the dates he loves. If I recall, Frankmaster is defending his precious episode of Heavy Metal and Save the Dates, which both episodes are pretty bad, to be honest, especially the latter ones with hell of a mean-spirited they put it and have a lame happy ending that they do not deserve with satisfying overgrown teenager. With a full-on psychotic big sister about to kill her own brother in cold blood. Regardless, I actually don't care much for Lori Loud, no matter what her flimsy character development with two nice gals with zero balancer makes her interesting for the rest of the show. He doesn't hesitate to block them out of the blue once someone says a negative opinion in these episodes he loves and paints them as bad users over disagreeing with them. I'm pretty convinced obsessive boner Ronniecoln shippers defended Save the Date and can't be bothered to acknowledge the problem with the episode and love that episode for a generic reason. And therefore, I have seen his new users memes list, and the whole introduction is rather bizarre and random, as shit. At least, he says something about the anti-H-up group, meaning Frankmaster has a deep hatred in that user. And Frankmaster claimed that he is neutral a bit in the Loud House. I mean, the Loud House got so boring and stale nowadays with painfully and funny and some shit, and most of the plot make little to no sense. However, it's clear that Frankmaster was more invested in shipping than the actual plot series and gets hyped up for the smallest things once his precious ship is on screen time, mainly Ronniecoln. Now, let's talk about his A-logging and chaos for the sake of historical purpose and shit. As I said at the beginning of this video, Frankmaster makes awful calls out with but-for state memes and attacks and harasses them constantly that he sees as headliner, as bad guys in a terrible situation. Something tells me that Frankmaster61 has no fucking idea what the definition of calling out with condoning A-logging and witchhunting them. Even I've seen his favorite sections, the so-called exposing the user's status quote despite most of the artwork filled with but-for state memes and A-logging and calling them toxic users with an alternative of good users and bad users terms. Frankmaster doesn't actually know what the expose is the way he doesn't waste time A-logging with bad memes just to spite them and thinking he makes him a professional dude without even realizing he ended up bad at them. I have seen that Frankmaster bash on some guy named Paladin154, who has been witch hunting, harassing, and shitting him with a few bad memes he put and used criticism as an excuse. Even Frankmaster gloating over Paladin154 got a rant on, just to spite the shit out of him and have other people watch packages videos ranting on him. And endorsing hate memes involving Paladin154 and praised him for making but-for hate memes, thus promoting his deep hatred of him individuals. I see how Frankmaster used calling out and exposing users to justify his A-loggish and harassing them and never acknowledged or realized that he doesn't make any better but rather borderline cyberbullies, immature, and massive headliner the way he stalks and harasses Paladin constantly. To be frank, Paladin154 has a history of a deep hatred of Steven Universe, which I don't care for this show, Gravity Falls, Amphibia, and some of the shows he doesn't like and cause a lot of trouble for his crisis. And even he goes far, as LGBT-phobic towards Steven Universe and blames the show cancelled his beloved OKKOLets, the heroes and slandered that Steven Universe is the creator of the Thundercats War, even though it loved different people they created series. It's not unwarranted that people couldn't stand his winningest Cartoonaboo-ish with a cesspool of bad memes, blinded hatred in a certain show he doesn't like, threatening people's life and some shit. However, it doesn't change the fact that Frankmaster endlessly harasses him with terrible memes and part of a hate group follows him with pure hatred, even if he did something rash and shit. And it's just not a problem with blinded hatred in him. He also has headliner of myself and BTBF2002, which I'll talk about his hatred in BTBF2002 a little later, that Frankmaster stalks the latter to spite him separately. Moreover, I've also seen him cause a lot of chaos with other users he doesn't like, including the military Grid 5000, Flames of Destruction 405 Stone, Panel Club Sex, etc. Sure, most of them are pretty bad and a nuisance, but Frankmaster is no better, considering, again, with but-for state memes out of them to make him feel better. Something tells me that Frankmaster is already blind hatred in the military Grid 5000 and 05 Stone, the way he stalks the foreigners and constantly witching him 24/7, regardless of having said anything much. And so does Frankmaster shit in Jake Stone and intrude in him endlessly every time he is talking shit about aging up during Season 5 of The Loud House. Although, Frankmaster does it to Paladin154, BTBF2002, and even myself irrationally, as mentioned. Therefore, he makes but-for state memes about Ronnie and haters who view them as a dire situation and treat Ronnie like a goddess saint. Believe it or not, one of them is possibly internet trolls that Frankmaster should ignore rather than go batshit on that guy and others just to blind hatred, or whatever that is. If I recall, Frankmaster attacked and bashed on Flames of Destruction 4 and used calling out as an excuse to shit on him every time the latter interrupted other people's raw play and ruined for them. And so does Daniel Club Sex that he encountered him. I honestly don't give a shit about Ronnie and Santiago, because she is 10 times bland protagonist in her spin-off compared to Lincoln and barely makes any interesting Ronnie aside from her extended family and her bestie, I guess. With rush character development, that is. He also claims that he respects the opinions, but Frankmaster doesn't take too kindly that somebody says negative opinions in stuff he loves and has been blocked out of the blue, thus promoting allodoxophobia and contradicting himself. especially when, again, he does it to people who hate Ronniecoln, tends to shovel people's opinions down the throats and paint them they are toxic femmes for having a different opinion. How typical double standards defensive stance he is and has no idea what the opinion is and contradicts himself. Not even the internet trolls he encountered intended to feed the trolls rather than ignore and avoid him and cost him to gain attention and encouraged him to draw violent hate art in the cast of Loud House. As a matter of fact, he has the balls to call out someone who fucked up artwork involving minors like Nugget the Balloon Girl, yet he is okay with Danasweet 123, Blue Spitter 17, and Funny Time 77. The one who has a history of fucked up artwork out of children through fetishes, and Frankmaster defended them and blocked anyone out of the blue who called them out, thus promoting himself as a double standard individual. I'm convinced that people like him find fetishes on minors, mainly on younger loud sisters, are too cute for them and go far as threatening them with hate memes and shit and contradicting themselves. It's absurd. If he ever saw his big femmes as him watch his video about Danasweet 123 and her cronies, he might be head on false flagging his video as revenge for messing with his friends or something, to the point he sees constructive criticism as to torture for him. I can't tell. I don't think I have much say about this with full-on harassing, stalking, or anything. Well, other than his call-out with butt-for hate memes, and not about to repeat myself on this topic. To make it any better, Frankmaster is well known for harassing and shitting on users just to make himself look good, and once blinded white knighting off someone who caused a lot of trouble without even realizing that and denying abysmal actions against them. For context, although that was a few years back, I came here to dig the past of his toxicity behaviors and tell the whole story of his wrongdoing back then for the sake of historical purposes, as I said before. At least to make it a little interesting about him. Frankmaster61 has a history of defending one of his ex-friends, Dramamaster, who is long gone due to termination for sexual role-playing on minors. When the packaged reviewers ran on his ex-friends, he is defending and white knighting him, who tells him to stop treating Dramamaster like he's a serial killer or something, despite the fact that Dramamaster has lost cause for his abysmal actions and tried to false flagging his video too, as revenge for ran on his bestie. It shows that Frankmaster has been buddy-buddy with Dramamaster and acts like he did nothing wrong without even bothering to fact-check his wrongdoing, and treats Lincoln like he's some sort of loyal saint or something with terrible fanfiction of running away shit. He does cut ties with Dramamaster eventually, once he knows who the latter is and later finds out he was caught sexual role-playing with someone involving minors. Thus, that was the last straw for Frankmaster and he grew to despise him, of course. And doesn't remember when he started to hate him despite he still had his hate memes about him. Regardless, he did apologize for his wrongdoing and claimed he changed for the better. Frankmaster learned none of it and immediately reverted to his old ways and caused more trouble when he went at the shit over disagreeing with him and pulled the victim card to avoid backlash. Something that Frankmaster's apologies journal is nothing but half-baked, and aged poorly that he blew it and his toxicity catches up to him. Also, I feel bad for the packaged reviewers, who have bizarre femmes like him, who make terrible calling out on users by endlessly harassing them, immature, filling members, making him uncomfortable when they treat him like a god, etc. It is not unwarranted why he has to block his bizarre femmes for the reason out of annoyance and shit. Therefore, you know what I said about Frankmaster using calling out as an excuse to harass and some crap towards internet trolls and certain users he doesn't like? Well, Frankmaster61 is borderline having huge obsessive hatred and goes left fields by stalking his headbangers the way he never lays off and condoning a-logging and witchhunting endlessly with bad exposure he has. For example, Frankmaster has been witchhunting and stalking on Awesomekella with a few hate memes and used his template memes for some bizarre reason. And even gaslights people not to trust both for their toxicity and blocked him for liking Save the Dates and Heavy Metals, even though he did it to himself by blocking Ronniecoln's haters for allodoxophobia reasons. And if I remember right, he bashes the shit out of Kella and stalks him to no end, until he got terminated for sexual roleplay. Granted, Keller has a history of a deep hatred of Seluna for an LGBT-phobic reason and has a creepy obsession with Sam Sharp to the point he makes people uncomfortable and eat out for that shit. and even denies Luna and Sam were a couple and can't be bothered to watch that episode and confirmed they were dating when they asked about their favorite couple. Which is a pretty nuisance for Killa, if you ask me. However, in Frankmaster's case, that doesn't change to justify his stalking and bashing him with obsessive headbangers individuals. Not that he did the same thing to his beloved Ronniecoln and got pissy once someone told him so for pointing it out. And I've seen him celebrating over someone who got terminated and mocking someone's termination or deactivation to spite them, us borderline blinded hatred and blogging further. Imagine if toxic users has passed away of natural causes or something, and Frankmaster would gleefully make memes about characters cheering over someone's death he hates and tried to justify who wanted them completely gone, not just terminated or deactivation. And if it does that not enough of Frankmaster61, he also has a history of full-on stalking on his headbangers BTBF 2002 as well. He has been stalking him with mindless insults and witchhunting him, making but-for-hate memes on him, shoveling opinions down the throats to spite him, and treats Jordan calm like it's serious disasters due to dies for our ship tropes. And even he goes far as threatening him by taking his life once he keeps bitching on Ronniecoln 24/7. Get this BTBF 2002, well known as Cartoonaboo-ish and nuisances, given he takes cartoons too seriously, shovels other people's opinions down the throats, uses opinions as facts, and so on. At least he does it on Ronniecoln, who has been bashing on and loses his shit every time he sees fanart between Lincoln and Ronnie and some shit, as mentioned. And his content is rather repetitive, deep hatred involving characters or stuff he doesn't like, unfunny memes, etc. And even a huge boner in girl Jordan with creepy obsession in treating her like she's a queen and Ronnie N, as evil Satan and claims to be like it's a different character despite the same universe considering cash grab spin-off. I can see why he couldn't stand his cartoon abuse and grow tired of him. However, once again, it is clear that Frankmaster doesn't know how to function to avoid him or call out when he did something stupid or something. So, he didn't waste time to catch attention once he saw BTBF 2000 to bad-mouthing on his beloved ships and went apple with defensive fanboys and zero effort to criticize him. And paints BTBF 2002 as a fake fan, even though Frankmaster only cares about shipping and sees The Loud House as a romantic comedy drama whenever he sees Lincoln and Ronnie and screen time and contradicts himself. He even praised someone who makes hate memes about him and convinced them to fake his work involving BTBF 2002, us showing Frankmaster is borderline obsessive hatred of him due to stalking him. I'm pretty convinced Frankmaster has barely better things to do than just waste time logging, stalking, hating memes on users, etc. Of course, he begs someone to join his hate group, which doesn't help that Frankmaster is promoted himself as having massive headbangers of him much further than usual. Oh, obviously, he has one journal, whereas he paints his beloved users as true fans of Grunets, sus and neutral and imposter are two evil users. At least, he paints himself as a god of the internet with a true Loud House fan status quote, mostly because of fun memes reactions, glorifying the shit out of Loud House, etc. And don't seem to realize he and his cronies ended up bad, as users they don't like by witchhunting them constantly. Believe it or not, it leaves me implying that Frankmaster must have been stuck with the so-called violent animate over the years and got affected by violent stans who called themselves good users and act like it was a real thing. And that journal is rather aged poorly, considering one of his ex-friend cut ties with him for his behavior, and how he reacted in DeviantArt and the rest of the social platform. At least he never shakes it off his hate boner and shit on them. You know, as much as I wanted to keep going about this, I just decided to stop here, because it is a chance to repeat myself countless times. Unless I see him do something stupid and possibly rashly like cybercrime, I might make one more video to warn about and fat a chance to acknowledge anything that he never learned and still do naughty stuff, for that matter. In the bottom line, Frankmaster61 is easily the most toxic deviant on Earth. With full-on logging and stalkers, that is. Frankmaster cannot take criticism, pulls the victim cards, gaslighting, dramamaster, and all that shit. Not even he treats Ronniecoln and Ronnie and herself like it's a high supreme god, and gets extremely pissed at people almost immediately once someone says something negative in stuff he loves and shovel people's opinion down their throats. Something tells me Frankmaster is terrible at exposing other users, never does any research just to make someone look bad, and has a deep hatred for certain users. And his content is dull, unoriginal, and lazy, with a P&G project good looking. Not just the way it is. I doubt I have much to say about this further conclusion, unless, like I said, if I see him do anything rashly, I may make one last video to warn everyone about him. Before wrapping this up, I have a message for him. Frankmaster61, Aka is it Fami Aka, whatever I called you. If you're watching this and tried to silence me by false flagging multiple times, bringing your white knight flash cronies with you, and threatening me and shit, get this. In case you didn't know, you're no true Loud House fans bullshit that you have a history of defensive stands on your precious ships or something and a full-on blocking streak for allodoxophobia reasons, stalking on users you hate, feeding the trolls, and so on. And you constantly played the victim cards whenever you caught a red flag and tried guilt-tripping to gain your sympathy that people have the right to expose you for your wrongdoings and hypocrisy. I can't see why you never take criticism or anything, because you find constructive criticism is a worst offender and have no clue what the definition of criticism bullshit. And so does your but for hate memes and favorite sections in your deep hatred users with a logging and witchhunting them. Listen carefully, I kindly ask you to learn what criticism or calling out means instead of full-on witchhunting, logging, stalking, mindless insult, and threatening other people with bad memes you have. Learn what the opinion is that not everyone has to agree with your shit, especially your precious Ronniecoln. And more importantly, stop giving them unfucking attention, mainly on deep hatred users of yours and internet trolls, and take your responsibility. But I digress. Because I already know you still discarded criticism or statement, since you continually denied your toxicity acts and gaslighted them to stay on your good side. As well as still block other people today anyhow over different opinions and shit. I wouldn't be surprised if I find out you deactivated your DeviantArt account and rage quit again due to a red flag you put in and immediately fall into depression for the tiniest things, and tend to guilt tripping and playing the victim to get out of the troubles, you know, for the second time. I have nothing else to say about him, and I'll probably see you in the next video, whatever I have planned to make. So, goodbye and signing off.